Hello and welcome to another video. On this one I'm going to be talking about the air pumps in the fish house and the pond. A few weeks ago we had quite a large power cut for 5 hours that obviously meant there was no power or water circulating in the fish house or the koi pond. Because of this and previous events that's kind of happened, I've been worrying about what happened if the power ever went off while we was in bed or I was at work or couldn't get home or didn't know about it. To try and combat that, I've been trying to get some kind of battery backup system. Now, I was wanting to use a UPS system originally to power the air pumps I already had. However, there's a lot of intricacies you have to be careful with UPS systems because they're not designed to run air pumps. I mean, they only pull in about 30 watts, the air pumps are, the Evolution Aqua air pumps. And obviously, the UPSs are designed to run computers, which are pulling, depending obviously how big your computer is, 500 to 600 watts. So they're designed to run a computer for maybe 4 or 5 minutes when the power goes out to give you enough time to save your work before the power cuts out completely. So the other thing is as well, predominantly, they're not true sine wave, they're modulated sine wave, which means it's basically a step sine wave for the AC current rather than the smooth up and down sine wave you'd get on normal AC current. Which means it can damage your pumps depending what you're trying to run with them, which was another factor that put me off slightly. You can get lithium UPS units, but they're incredibly expensive. And from the calculations I saw on, I think it was the APC website, they do a lot of UPSs, so they can give you a lot of information. But from what I could see, the UPSs was just not going to give you the run times that was satisfactory for the kind of money you'd have to pay for the UPS in the first place. Some was only like half an hour, others was maybe 2.5 hours, estimated at the 30 watt draw, which is okay, but when you think of how much I was spending on the UPS, you can get small UPSs for £100 quite easily, slightly bigger ones for 200, but really if you're wanting one that's got the proper sine wave, you're talking up to £400 or £500 for a UPS that kind of size. The other benefit of having the bigger UPSs is that they can have lithium batteries in them rather than the lead acid batteries. The lead acid ones are okay for a few years, but they'll have to replace them, and obviously the battery is probably one of the most expensive components of the actual UPS unit. So you end up having to fork out quite a lot of money every so many years to replace the batteries. And being in the hot environment of the fish house, that's just going to stimulate and increase the degradation, should I say, possibly on the batteries, simply because of the environment they're in there, but it's obviously not an ideal environment. Whereas the lithium batteries don't mind it being a bit hotter, so that's another plus to having the lithium ones. However, like I said, the expense was getting quite large to do this. So I come up with the idea, then looking around, I realised there was actually some air pumps out there that already had batteries built into them. I was slightly sceptical at first because I know for my 95, I think it was 95 watt air pump, Evolution Aqua, was around £200. And these air pumps, well, the one I'm going to show you now, cost me 160 to 170 with an 8-hour battery on it. So I was sceptical of how good the air pump was going to be for that money when the air pumps without the battery I've already got cost more than that. However, looking at it now, I'm quite impressed with it, and I'll show you in a minute. But basically, that's the route I've gone down. I've ordered an air pump with a backup battery that should last 8 hours. I'm guessing that's going to be at full power though, so I'm guessing at part power, maybe 25%. So I'm guessing on full power, if you've left it and it turns off at full power, you might only get maybe, I don't know, a couple hours out of it. But I'll try and do some tests on it to try and actually find out what you get at full power as opposed to obviously lower power. But the idea is basically just take the air pump off I've got and put this one on, and it's just that little bit peace of mind that if anything was to happen while I'm asleep, even if it's only 2-3 hours I've got with it running, it just gives you that little bit longer peace of mind for you to notice it's gone off in the first place, and then you kind of counteract and come up with a solution at that point, whether it be a petrol generator or anything like that. The other thing, obviously, if I'm at work and it's an hour to get home or anything like that, if I'm at work all day, I'm at the house 12 hours, so again, it's just a little bit more peace of mind. It's not ideal, I'd like obviously a longer battery life, but I could always possibly in the future add a UPS unit to this. Again, I don't know what battery's in it. For the price, I very much doubt it's going to be lithium ion. But I believe they're probably just going to be lead acid again. But I'm hoping with them being designed to run the air pump rather than the UPS is designed to run a computer, it works more flawlessly and it's more suited to doing that job that it's specified for. Meaning you get the extra time without needing such a big battery because it's designed to discharge at, for instance, 30 watts. Whereas obviously the UPSs are designed to run at 600 watts. The circuitry and everything in board is a lot higher to cope with that bigger discharge rate, where it doesn't need that extra engineering of the circuitry to discharge at that rate because it's only drawing 30 watts. So it'll be really interesting. I think normal air pumps like the Evolution Aqua ones work on diaphragms. If I believe correctly, this is actually done on a linear motor inside this one, which obviously spins and obviously turns a pump a bit like a bicycle pump, I'd imagine, but on a wheel where it's constantly pumping round. So I'll show you it now and give you a quick review of what I've seen so far. So this is the air pump I've purchased. I believe it's pronounced Helios. Chinese manufacturer, but from what I've seen online and what I've been recommended by other koi hobbyists in the UK, they've been good so far. It comes with the standard 3-pin UK plug, which is good. The Evolution Aqua ones I've got in the garage have actually got European style plugs in them, so I have to have an adapter on them. As you can see, we're not plugged in at the minute. On the front of the display, it gives you battery health, or how much the charge is, so we've got 100 to obviously 10%. We've got 2 outlets, so this one's rated for 120 litres, 120 litres per minute, which is obviously 60 through each one. Which is obviously a slightly different arrangement to what I've got at the minute, because I've just got the single large outlet on the Evolution Aqua air pump at the minute. So I'm going to have to try to, I think this is 8mm, so I'm going to have to try and change the way it feeds the tanks. But my idea is now is basically have the pond run off one side and the fish house run off the other. Whereas before I've got the big pipe coming out here and I'm having to split it to a manifold and have the big, I think it's about 50mm pipe run down to the pond and then this way from the manifold going to all the tanks. So this way it's a bit more simpler in that sense. It's just going to be one to the pond, one to the fish house. But as you can see, we're not plugged in, and if we just turn this dial, we've got air coming out already. So it's already come with some charge on the battery. From the reviews I've seen and the videos I've seen online, it's quite a powerful pump. I've seen tests of it down to 5 foot, which is slightly less than my pond because my pond's 6 foot, but it should be interesting either way. The pump I've currently got running everything is only a 70 litre a minute pump. So this is 120, so it is going to be, it's an extra 50 litres per minute. So either the pond or the fish house is going to get the extra or split between the two. We'll see how I decide to split it between them. Ideally, I think I'd like to pump a bit more into the pond, especially for the sturgeon in summer. But yeah, I just thought I'd quickly show it you now before I install it. I'm not going to install it tonight. I'm just going to try and get the bits and pieces I might need for the pipe work and then go from there. But I just thought I'd show it you straight out of the box really and see what you thought. Just as another thought as well, I just wanted to mention that this isn't obviously the only air pump I've got in there. There's 3 in total. I've got 95 litres per minute Evolution Aqua air pump, which is powering or moving around the K1 in one side of the fish house, which is moving, I think it's around 300, is it 200, 300 litres of K1, something like that. Plus with the added flow of the water moving through it as well is enough to keep all of that moving nicely. And then at the other side of the fish house, there's another 70 litre air pump, which an Evolution Aqua again, which is moving the K1 at the other end of the fish house, which is not quite as much. I believe that's 200 litres. But again, you've got the flow of the water from the pump also moving around in the chamber. So again, that's enough movement to keep the K1 moving round and agitated. Then this one is going to replace the pump that is sat in between both of them, which is the pump that runs directly to the tanks and to the pond, which is the 70 litre. So just thought I'd clear that up a little bit more. So yeah, it's going to be an additional 50. Eventually I am wanting to actually swap that 70 litre one at the other end for a bigger 95 litre one again, but it's just the expense at the minute. It is managing at the minute okay, so I might put more K1 in eventually. Some of the rays in that tank get bigger for the ammonia and obviously the bio load on the tank. But now I've increased the mechanical filtration on the tank, which I don't think I've talked about on the channel yet. I am probably pulling more dirt out than I was before anyway, so the water quality is good as it is. So I just thought to make a note on what air pumps I'm using at the minute. So I'll probably do another short video after this once I've installed it, just showing you what it's... Well, probably I'll do one actually thinking about it on the current pump I've got and show you how much air that's pumping into each tank and how much it's pumping into the pond. And then I'll fire this one up and then we'll do a comparison of how much this one's running compared to the old one and try and... I can't exactly measure how much is coming out of the pond that easily, but I should be able to, in some ways, measure how much is coming out each stone inside the house, give you a bit of a comparison. But yeah, just a quick review on it, really. So again, if you've liked it, subscribe and everything, you know, the usual. So thank you for watching. Hi again. I just wanted to tag this onto the end of the last video because I thought I'd put the results of what was happening with the air pump on the end of this video because it would be easier than creating a whole new video. Basically, I've been somewhat disappointed with the pump overall. It definitely pumps a lot of air, but with it being a linear pump, it does struggle with the depth, and it doesn't perform how I've seen it perform in the other reviews I've seen online. So basically, I hooked it up like I said I was going to do. It basically had the fish house going through one side and the pond through the other. Now, the 60 litres for the fish house was basically split into four, one into the left tank and the right tank, and then again split left and right for the left and right sumps. So that was relatively evenly split. Obviously the top tanks are slightly deeper, so there was slightly more pressure on them than the bottom sumps. But after we evened it out somewhat, we managed to get a good amount of air through it, put new air stones on it to try and really maximise the performance, and we managed to get the fish house side of things running really well, and I was really happy with that. There was more air going in than there was previously, and it just looked really good, basically. It was running really well. The pond side, however, definitely struggled. Initially, I tried with I think it was an 8 or 9 inch air disc that had been in for a couple of years, and I originally hooked it up to that, and at the full 6 foot depth, simply very little air came out of it at all. I basically then bought a brand new disc so I could put the new disc on while I maybe cleaned the old disc to see if that may have been a factor on it. And basically, again, it was slightly better, but not by much. So I ended up reducing the length of the pipe, so the disc, instead of being flat on the floor, was up the side of the pond a little bit, so it was nearer the 5 foot mark. And we did start to get some air flowing through it, and it was satisfactory to an extent. But it wasn't really what I was expecting. It wasn't enough, really, considering that should have been 60 litres a minute, being half the pump. It was definitely less than what was coming out the Evolution Aqua previously. The Evolution Aqua previously was obviously was doing the fish house as well. So out of the 70 litres, obviously with it being at pressure, was probably only pumping down to about 30 to 40 litres a minute anyway, because of the pressure at 6 foot deep. On top of that, then obviously so much of that was then going to the other tanks. So actually going to the pond may have only been about 20 to 25 litres a minute anyway, because of the other air going to the other tanks in the fish house. Obviously that's why there's such an increase in the fish house, because obviously now them tanks are getting a dedicated 60, which is brilliant. But unfortunately, because of the pressure on the linear pump, it wasn't pumping probably slightly less than the Evolution Aqua was to the pond. So it was probably only maybe getting 15 litres a minute through to the pond, which was nowhere near the aim of the objective of what I was wanting to achieve. So basically what I've ended up doing now is I basically put the Evolution Aqua back on the pond, but this time now, because it isn't pumping to the fish house and the pond, it's just doing the pond. It's getting far more air than it ever has before since I've built the pond in the last 5 years, basically now, because it's got a dedicated Evolution Aqua 70 pumping air directly to it. So that's more air going to that section of the pond than it's ever had previously. So it's good, but it's not good because obviously now that isn't battery backup, it is just a regular air pump again. But on the pond with the volume, it's probably not such a problem because of the oxygen levels and the volume of water. If there was anything to happen, generally you'd have a bit longer than what I would have in the fish house, because obviously colder water has a high concentration of dissolved oxygen, so the fish will have longer before they get to any problems anyway. Whereas with the fish house being at 28 to 29 degrees, the dissolved oxygen level is much less in the water, plus the volume of the water is less in the first place. You're going to have less time to react when things go wrong, like with the air pumps turning off or just the power going out in general. What I've done in the fish house is now basically split the fish house kind of in half, and basically one tank and one sump has got 60 litres going to it, and the other side, on the other system, has got another 60 litres going to it. So basically, the tanks are 90 centimetres deep in the pond, in the garage, sorry, so they're around 3 foot. So at that pressure, at that kind of depth, they really do pump and pump well. Like I say, I've gone from having maybe only 20 litres going into the tanks in the fish house to now putting bigger air stones on them. We're really kicking out a lot of air now. I mean, we're probably obviously not running it 120. We probably are down somewhat because of the 90 centimetre depth. But we've managed to get down to... I haven't tested it exactly, and I could find out, to be fair. But I think we'd probably be down to probably 80 to 90 litres, somewhere around that range. Maybe slightly more. But comparing that to the old 20 I was maybe getting previously, obviously we've got 4 times more in. We've got a really good stream of air coming from the brand new air stones now. So I'm really happy with that. Happy we've got the backup in there. It's just a shame I couldn't get it to work for the pond. But that was my first experience with linear air pumps. So it's a lesson learned. And one, I've took the pressure side of things quite seriously in the next video I'm going to do, which is where I've also basically updated the layout of the pipework for the 95 Evolution Aqua pump on the K1. Changed the stone layout for moving the K1, and also changed the pipework that feeds all the stones that agitate the K1. And found some interesting things when I bought an air pressure gauge to actually find out what the pressure was within the pipework. Made all the changes and then realised what the new pressure was and how much back pressure was on the actual pump unnecessarily, just by changing some fittings and reducing the back pressure on it. So that's the next video, a bit of an insight for that one, which I've already recorded it, I just need to release it. But yeah, that's another interesting one. So I think I've got basically this video obviously on the air pumps, the battery backup one. The next one's going to be on the Evolution Aqua 95 and the K1. And then the next one is, after that, I think the third video will be, we're taking out all the K1 out of the mini marble side of the fish house, taking it all out, giving the sump a really good just once over base, a bit of a spring clean. And while I'm doing it, also implementing then the new air stone arrangement to help with the back pressure. So hope you're going to enjoy that. And yeah, as I said previously, before I tag this bit on the end, if you liked it, please subscribe. So any questions, drop them below. But thank you very much.